Good morning. I want to talk about the value and worth of every person, and in particular, every student. We're sitting out here in Gardner, Maine, and we just taped a piece on inspired teaching with Maureen Oswald. And about 6 weeks ago, Maureen asked me whether or not I would tape a message to students, her students this year, all students. And I said, yes, I would, because there are some very specific things I want to say. And they fly in the face of a lot of things that may have already been said to you as students. So it doesn't matter to me what your background is, how good or poor your parents were, what the circumstances have been in your life. There are people who actually care about how your life turns out. Now, we get all hung up on words, and there's a way of looking at what we want for people's lives that involves thinking about how that life plays out. If you thought about somebody you didn't know, a stranger from another country, would you want them to be hungry? Would you want them to be homeless? No, you'd probably want them to lead a meaningful, productive, contributory, joyous life. Well, that's why I do the work I do, and why Maureen does the work she does, and why every inspired teacher does what they do, because they actually care about how your life turns out. This isn't about doing well in English. That's fine. Learning how to write's great, so you can communicate with people. And the fact of the matter is that it's not just about writing letters. It's about workability in your life. Now, unfortunately, some of you have been told that you're not valuable, that you're stupid or dumb, or you might have overheard somebody say, I wish the little SOB had never been born. Well, I want you to know that those kinds of comments are only made by people who don't feel well about themselves. Now, to demonstrate this, I want to talk a little bit about bullying. Now, we've progressed a goodly bit from when I grew up, because the program about bullying was, when I was a kid, boys will be boys, and that's all that was said, and everybody was told to just suck it up and move on. Well, we recognize that's not okay now. There are a lot of people who've done a lot of damage because they ended up being bullied and then got angry at the world. Well, the fact is that actually the only reason anybody would bully another human being is because they don't feel okay about themselves. If I value me, I'm not going to damage you. So the next time you look at or hear somebody putting another person down, recognize that the person talking doesn't feel well about themselves, and it's got nothing to do with you. Now, if I go in and talk to the student population, for example, at Mount Blue Middle School, when I'm talking with them and I start talking about bullying, I can tell by the people who look at the floor who the people are who have been doing the bullying, because they don't feel good about doing it and they really don't want to be continuing that pattern. Well, there's only one thing that's going to break that pattern, and that's genuine, not artificial, not fake, but genuine concern for one another as human beings. So I'm asking you to let in that there are people who love you absolutely and unconditionally. Understand, telling kids you love them is now going to be against the law or not advised. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you actually love and care for a child, you could not in the possible world do damage to them. So I'm going to take the risk of saying those words and having you hear them. If you know that there are people who care about how your life turns out, then you can, in the face of all the obstacles in the world, take responsibility for your own life. You may not have had a supportive background, upbringing, etc. There may have been a good deal of unwellness around you, and you can master those circumstances. A man named Viktor Frankl, who was a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a poet, wrote the following line: "The last of the freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." He wrote about that human capacity, which is inside of every single one of you listening to this, inside a prison camp, Auschwitz, during World War II. That capacity resides inside of you. Remember that you are loved absolutely and unconditionally, that your value and worth in the world is a given. Achieving in academics or athletics or anything else, that's wonderful. Celebrate those things, but it doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make anybody a better person. No one is any better than anyone else. So number one, you're loved absolutely and unconditionally. Your value and worth are a given, and you've got a choice. Is what you're about to do going to contribute to your life or to other people's, or is it going to play takeaway? I invite you to create for yourself a magical life. Namaste.